Oh my goodness, time flies, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, college football fans, welcome to an Urban's Take. Urban, it's the 2023 season. It literally is right around the corner. How you feeling, my man?
I remember, it's almost like you wake up and you should be in meetings, you should be, getting ready to game plan for a Big Ten conference opener. You got to pick a quarterback. There's so much going on in Ohio State, but really across the country. So
Yeah.
I'm ready to go and look forward to it.
Hey, you and I haven't hit up since, man, once again, it was the summer of change for college football. And, I don't even know how you're coming to grips. I just remember during your coaching days, you would have that magnetic depth chart sitting up in y'all's team room, in your offensive room, and you could move the pieces around based on how a practice went or how a week went and stuff. And I'm just wondering, are you required to have one of those now up on your wall about where teams are and what conferences this year and then going into next year? It's been a crazy time with now Washington and Oregon joining colleagues USC and UCLA in the Big Ten starting next year, and then the Pac-12 going from the Pac-12 to what I call the Final Four when all those teams left for the Big 12 now. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is. If someone had said, okay, Tim, this is what's going to happen in 15 years, I mean, you would have thought, Pac-12 was arguably the strongest conference when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Heisman Trophy winners, national champion, Hall of Fame coaches, NFL players everywhere, great rivalries, great stadiums, and to think this is where we're at, the reality is this, Tim, is that I was part of it when the whole world changed, and the whole world changed from premium placed on education and scholarships and team first, and I don't want to be that old guy that says way back when, because it's still great. Everything's wonderful about, the attendances will be great, the viewership will be great, but the TV world has changed, and I'm involved with that now. I sit in those meetings, and this is a strenuous time for television. People don't watch television anymore. Now it's all on their iPhones, iPads, streaming. And I heard a comment at some seminars that the television advertisement dollar for live events has never been greater. And as a result, there's a lot of money. But then also you have to look at the university side. It's never been more expensive to support athletic programs. So I was talking to a couple of administrators that I won't share the names, but I'm very close with, and it's unsustainable right now. That means if you want to support Ohio State supports 36 sports, number one largest athletic department in the country. Others, there's, I think they see 18, 19 teams, but the reality is that to perform at a high level, give the athletes and coaches everything they need, I don't know if it's sustainable, Tim.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that because my daughters played college volleyball. The greatest part of their life and our life was watching them perform and compete. And I had two girls play college sports. I just hope that doesn't go away. I don't know the future. No one does. The administrations don't, TV doesn't understand the future. But the reality is this is a money-driven world right now. It's not all bad. It's obviously there's greatness to it, but there's going to be some fallout from this in the next few years, and I hope it stays positive for the student athlete.
Well, number one, you hope the economy stays strong. You know what I mean? Because everything is driven by now television dollars, and mainly for major college football. And I just wanted to wrap your brain around this. Though Washington and Oregon in the Big Ten, we know about the travel. Travel is travel no matter what. But is that unwieldy to you, or do you see down the road how it could work? I mean, an 18-team Big Ten possibly moving to 20, before it's all over, but with 4 teams way out on the West Coast, is that going to work, you think?
I don't know. I think it's going to turn out to be 2 power conferences. I think you're going to have the North-South possibly, and I'm with Fox, and I can see Fox is all over the Big Ten, Pac-12, and Big 12. Not as much Pac-12 because it's basically gone after this year. And the SEC is committed to the ESPN. So, you saw what happened when the Pac-12 did not sign that television contract. I mean, you talk about people ran. The best programs ran from the Pac-12, and that tells you the value of that. So I read some of the comments by some of the student athletes where you wake up one day, your daughter goes to Stanford to play tennis, and she's going to play USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon State, Washington State, and they're going to, road trips to Arizona State.
Yeah.
And also now they're waking up one day and they're going to spend a week in the eastern part of the country playing Rutgers, Maryland, Penn State, and Illinois. I don't know. I hope all. Obviously, I'm a big believer in the Big Ten. I think the addition to those teams, the addition of these teams made us. The Big Ten is legit now. I mean, you tell me now. You're the head coach of Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Michigan State. Those teams are really good teams. Have really good traditions.
Yeah.
You just got bumped a little bit now.
Yeah.
I mean, what chance of those teams I just mentioned, once this conference gets of making it to the championship game? We're going to get rid of the divisions. I understand. That means only two teams, the top two teams will go. There's not East-West anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many scenarios that you get your mind thinking about how great this conference is. I hope we keep it great.
Yeah, like I told you last year, if you were in the Big Ten West, I'm talking about a school in the Big Ten West, why would you vote for no divisions? I mean, it literally halves, HALVES, halves your chances, in my opinion, of even getting to the Big Ten championship game. I mean, it's kind of what are you playing for except for advancing this, now new 18-team megalith league. And when you add a USC, like you said, and Oregon and Washington to those backside, UCLA to a certain extent, they're going to be right up there contending. You got to believe down the road with Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, right?
Yeah, and then the average, and you kind of glossed over it. There's the wear and tear on a student athlete.
Yeah.
Take it every time. Shelly and I actually did. And I said, we woke up, we took a red eye back, and we were beat. We're older, but we got beat up. I mean, the next day it was non-functional. I've made those trips. The average plane ride for USC is going to be 2,000 miles.
Yeah,
2,000 miles, and they're going to be in a charter plane. They're going to get their sleep. What about the other sports?
right.
And some would say, well, this isn't about the other sports. I disagree. It is about the other. This is still college sports, unless there's something happens and says, okay, college football is going to be removed from the system. But then what happens? I love women's sports. I love, my daughters played it. I love the non-revenue sports. I love going to wrestling and watch Tom Ryan's teams play, and our women's basketball team's going to almost won a national championship. What happens?
Yeah. I mean, Gene Smith, outgoing Ohio State athletic director, retiring on June the 30th, 2024, basically had a conversation with him a couple of weeks ago, and he can see football separating eventually, the major football separating. Do you see that in your crystal ball?
I hope not. But this, Gene Smith would certainly have better insight than I do on that. But, I did not see what's happening now. I did not see this.
Yeah.
I did not see the complete disruption of the rivalries but I do have some insight on this whole television thing because I am in those meetings, and I do understand. There was a time where the television was on constantly. When I was growing up, you turned on TV. People don't watch TV anymore. What they do watch are big events. They watch live TV, live sports. That's where it is right now.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, college athletics better hope it stays there, because that is driving the train right now.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, we have a couple of topics we want to cover, but I did want to ask you this, because you to a certain extent are traditionalist. You grew up in the midst of the Ohio State Michigan 10-year war way back in the 70s, and is when you became you became enlightened as to what major college football was all about, Bo versus Woody, et cetera. But now you got the Apple Cup possibly going away, Washington State. You've got Penn State and Ohio State are not a protected, right now the only protected rivalry is Ohio State, Michigan for Ohio State. Ohio State, Penn State is one of the great draws from a rating standpoint every year in college football. If you look down through the last couple of decades, I mean, I don't know. Don't you still need those big games, those rivalry games to really, isn't college football still built along those lines? I mean, Oregon State may be gone. You know what I mean? Utah, BYU. Go ahead.
In my world it is, but I'm not sure it is anymore, Tim. I mean, how does Texas and Texas A&M leave a meeting and say, this is a good idea, let's not play each other anymore?
Yeah.
How does BYU, Utah hey, I got a good idea. Let's not play. What are you talking about? I used to consider, Nebraska, Colorado, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Texas. To me, I couldn't wait to watch those games. And someone, once again, the higher ups got in the meeting and said, I got an idea. Let's take this legendary school, move them to another conference.
Yeah.
And really a very unfamiliar terrain, not really there's no recruiting correlation to what happened in Nebraska. And you can keep blaming the coaches all you want. Keep firing the coaches. There's something. Nebraska is a great school. Nebraska was the mecca of football. What happened? You have to ask that question. And once again, let's go to the Big Ten Conference. And we're actually going to do something on Big Noon Kickoff. And you take a look at the teams that have left conferences in the last 30 years and how many championships have they won? How has their record been compared to was before they left? And it's shocking. The numbers are, I kind of thought it would be shocking, but it is shocking. You had Arkansas that was really a power in the Big 8, in the Big 12, Southwest Conference. You had Colorado, which was a very good, powerful school. And you see a lot of changes and not many championships.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. From my childhood, we won't get into that, but Southwest Conference, right on down the line. I wanted to ask you this. Let's move on. As we record this, Ryan Day has not named his starting quarterback yet. Between Cal McCord and Devin Brown, two former 5-star prospects, battling it out. He says basically it's too close to call at this moment. Why call it if it's too close to call? Maybe in the next 12 days or 11 days, one of these guys will sprint past the other guy or way ahead of the other guy and stuff. I don't think Alabama's named a starting quarterback yet as we speak here. What is your stance on naming a starting quarterback? We all remember the drama between Cardale Jones, who had just won a national championship for Ohio State, and J.T. Barrett, who had led them almost to the promised land, sort of like Moses, in 2014. And then Cardale Jones took them the rest of the way, your 2014 Ohio State team. And we didn't know who the starter was till Cardale Jones ran out on the field against Virginia Tech the next year. J.T. Barrett ended up supplanting him as the year went on. But I don't know. Is this a moment of concern? Should Ohio State fans be concerned there's not a starter named yet? Because, of course, they are.
No, they shouldn't be. Ryan Days and Corey Dennis are, just what they've done the last 4 years in quarterback recruiting, development, and play. I don't know it's ever been done before. Certainly not at Ohio State, certainly not at the Big Ten Conference. I was trying to go back and if I ever remember anything. Lincoln Riley's done a really good job. Jimbo Fisher had a nice run at Florida State. A guy named Jeff Tedford at Oregon, but it pales compared to what Ryan Day and Corey Dennis have done. So they're the last thing they need to worry about is the quarterback position at the Ohio State University. I will say this, that we had Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow. Think about that, and I thought it was the right thing to do because Joe Burrow, when he did not win that spot, and it was close, he could have won it. And we announced the starter, and Joe left, and we're still very close to this day. Can you imagine if Joe Burrow stayed at Ohio State?
Yeah.
And if I would have just said, okay, we're not going to name a starter, let's keep him playing. And then Dwayne Haskins leaves for the NFL. Who would our starter be the next year?
Joe Burrow.
Yeah. And Joe Burrow had the greatest. His first year at LSU was just very workmanlike, very average.
Yeah.
But can you imagine him taking over that team? The season he had at LSU, and then all of a sudden he does that for Ohio State. But so you had the Cardale. I also had a Chris Leak and Tim Tebow. I played them both. So I think it just gets great conversation. But the last thing Ohio State Buckeye fans need to worry about is how Ryan Day / Corey Dennis is going to handle the quarterback situation.
Yeah, yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, truth in advertising, Corey Dennis is Urban Meyer's son-in-law.
I throw his name out there.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, dude, they've got so many people. I asked Cal McCord during a preseason, you've got 4 or 5 guys that are whispering to you in that quarterback room. I mean, there's some good guys. I mean, even Joe Philbin's Joe Philbin's around now as a quality control guy. Who do you listen to? And then he had a good answer, but he finally ended up going, the guy everybody always listens to is going to be Ryan Day because he's going to make that call, right? Urban, it is so important. Why is it important? Well, it makes sense, but explain to people why it's important for the head coach to finally make the call on a starting quarterback.
Well, he's the only guy that can. It's the most important position, not just in college football, all of sport. And it's, that's his expertise. But even if it's not, Nick Saban's going to make the quarterback.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it is. That's the way it's always going to be in this sport. I used to laugh when someone said, well, the NFL is a quarterback league. Well, so is Pop Warner.
Yeah.
So is seventh grade football. So is high school. So is obviously college. So who you select to put behind the center, that's the head coach's call.
Hey, it's what they call week 0 in the NCAA. Actually, college football starting this weekend. I mean, there's a game in Dublin, Ireland, Notre Dame versus Navy. I don't know. Is it these games? These teams that play, I think there's 6 games this weekend, maybe 8. But these guys get a head start when it comes to preseason camp and stuff. And I'm just wondering from your standpoint, is that a little bit of an advantage for these teams getting a head start and end up with a bye week somewhere, an extra bye week somewhere in the mid rest of the schedule and stuff? But what's kind of your take on that? I mean, Ohio State goes to Notre Dame here in a month and a week or so, and by then, Notre Dame will be well rested from his trip to Ireland. Will have gotten a head start on his preseason camp, things like that. I'm not trying to stir a pot here, but is there an advantage to playing in week 0?
I was actually an assistant coach in Notre Dame. We went to Ireland and we did play Navy. That was not even. It's fun for the fans and all that. That's not. It's tough it's really hard on the assistant coaches, because I just remember everyone on the plane barely sleeping because we had a game and before, and then getting ready for that trip, leaving early in the week, disrupting practice. I do believe there should be a fundamental start and finish to college football. I think that that the NCAA should legislate and say, okay, this is because is it a huge advantage? I don't know, but when I was a head coach, how nuts I was worried about everything.
Yeah.
I would count the practices that they had, and I would even talk to our team and our staff saying, we're 6 practices behind, but that was me. I was kind of crazy about that. I think Ohio State's going to be fine. By the time you get to week 4, you got to think maybe Notre Dame's starting to get wore out a little bit, because, that's just wear and tear on the player. So.
Yeah. Yeah, reps are reps, right? USC opens with San Jose State this week, and I think that game's just a home game. But it is interesting how some people look for that head start. I wanted to ask you this before we get fully underway this next week. Obviously, Ohio State opens at Indiana, for example. Alabama opens. Is there a team out there that's gotten your attention in the offseason, in the preseason, that you think could be, I don't know, that surprise TCU kind of team this season? I mean, is there one you've had your eye on, maybe because they benefited from the transfer portal, but you don't know how much you benefited right from the transfer portal until you play the games. But is there somebody out there that's interesting to you?
Real quick, I just think also the NCAA should mandate scheduling. When I see the Wolverines and I see Georgia's preseason schedule, and I just think with this 12-team playoff that if I'm a head coach at Ohio State, I could care less about my preseason schedule, about the non-league schedule. Our job is getting the playoff, and so I just worry that's going to. Why would Ohio State play Notre Dame anymore?
Yeah.
Why would that? Why not play a MAC conference schedule to keep everybody healthy and get ready to rip and roar into a season, So I think, there's some shortcomings. It's just for the good of the game. I hope you should play a top 25. I think you should play a premier school, a middle school, and then you can play a smaller school. That should be some kind of mandate. But yeah, I got 2 teams. I got Texas. At some point, Texas, it's too good of a place. The coach, Sarkisian, is too good of a coach. They are loaded. There's 5-star athlete at every position on offense.
Yeah.
At Texas, I watched them against Alabama last year. They should have won that game. If Quinn Ewers doesn't go down, I believe Texas beats Alabama in the whole 2023, 2 seasons completely different.
Yeah.
And then the other team is LSU. I think LSU's got a fine coach. I think he adapted much quicker than I thought. LSU is a tough-ass place to play. And they're, he's a good, tough coach now. So I got Texas and LSU are 2 teams that I see them, if not in the playoff, they're going to be right there.
Hey, for Ryan Day right now, if you're Nick Saban, if you're Kirby Smart, have the days gone by too quickly in preseason camp, or are you sitting there going, golly, we didn't get this covered, we didn't get that covered? You did this for so many years at a high level. What are coaches, or are they just eager to to play a real game, to have their guys go against somebody who's different?
That's a great question, and the coaches would all, they still do it. Ryan Day and I talked not too long ago, and I always had the red check. I was in Sharpie too, so you couldn't erase it. And it was a red check mark, and I would put it by first the personnel, and then the plays or phases of the game. Once I gave the red check mark, that meant that thing was game ready. For example, onside kick, hands team, punt return, punt block. Once I felt like, and I had below like punt block, 8-man rush, 7-man rush, hold up, white, red, blue, the different returns. And once we practiced it enough and it felt good enough to me, I would put game ready, because some guy's going to get hurt. Same thing with the inside zone with certain run plays. Do we feel good about this play? Have we seen it again? And the line coach would stand right next to me and say, is this play ready? Once it's ready, you just have to keep it fine-tuned. You don't have to scrimmage it anymore. You don't have to do it live with live bullets flying, because someone, once again, could get hurt. You're going to be like, why did we do that?
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the team. If you have a veteran team, there's a lot of red check marks right now on that board. If it's a young team, it's a lot of non-red check marks, and you have to scrimmage it in practice. So I'd say you do it in practice, you scrimmage it, and then you put that red check mark next to it if it's ready.
Last quickie is a bonus question. Is Archie Griffin in jeopardy of being the only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner by the end of this season? You got Caleb Williams back at USC. What's your gut telling you? You look like you got a little butterflies there, because I know you're a big Archie Griffin guy.
Yeah, I wore 40. I remember my sophomore year in high school when I made varsity. They said, what number do you want? I was a running back, and they said, you got 44, 45, and everybody thought I was going to take 44, because everybody wore 44, and I said, no, I'm going to take 45. So 45 always been a special to me. Archie's a great friend of mine. I think he's in jeopardy every year. The Heisman Trophy winners, there's no seniors anymore.
Yeah.
Seniors don't win Heismans.
No.
It's because seniors are gone.
Yeah.
So they're
the inspirational leaders of your team. Go ahead now.
Yeah, seniors. There's not many seniors in college football anymore, because they leave early for the draft. And we had a sophomore win at Tim Tebow. Johnny Manziel won as a freshman. This guy's really good. So yes, he is in jeopardy of losing his only 2-time winner.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Urban Meyer with Urban's Take. Urban, we're going to be back every week, man. Are you fired up for this?
I am, and I love being with you, Tim.
Yeah, and I love college football, man. I don't know about you. Is that true about you? Huh?
I do. I miss certain things. I love the game. I love the locker room. That Swamp Kings just came out. I watched that this morning, the first series, and got chills thinking about all those great players, and the 21-20 win against Tennessee.
Yeah.
Out of 110,000 people. That changed. It's so funny that that I can reflect a little bit. You tell me the world is the college football world changes like that, with someone making a great play on 4th and 1. Some freshman named Tim Tebow got the first down by that far on 4th down and 1 against the rivalry game. JT Barrett, and boy did he get that first down.
Yeah, he did.
He got that first down.
I think you can see that from every angle except Jim Harbaugh's angle, but that's
another show.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another show.
That's a podcast for another day. Urban Meyer, we'll see you next week, man, on Urban's Take. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you join us.